Binary Domain is, in my opinion, a brilliant game. When it was released a couple of years ago, it went overlooked by a lot of gamers, and I'd say it's about time to put that right. The game is set in a future where global warming has melted the ice caps, millions of people live in slums, and we as humans have finally got our robot slaves. Before you start thinking this is a game of iRobot, well, it almost is. That aside, the story is compelling, even with its familiarity, with enough intrigue and plot twists to keep you hooked to the final cutscene. To keep robots from rising up and destroying us all, the world's governments have outlawed robots that look like humans, and in the case of the Amada Corporation, the manufacturing of machines who appear to be human and have no idea what they really are. These beings are known as Hollow Children. You play as Dan Marshall, a badass American trooper who is part of an international Rust crew. Your job is to investigate these Hollow Children and to destroy them. During the game, you'll meet and fight alongside your Rust crew, and this will take you through sewers and slums, all the way to the super high-tech buildings of the top 1%. The controls are pretty solid, although there are a few minor problems. The most annoying one that I found is a problem with shooting from cover. Occasionally, you fire into the cover itself and not at the scrap heads that are trying to gun you down. The campaign is offline single player only. It would have been nice to see a co-op feature in here, but the only co-op that's included with the game is a horde mode, where you and 3 other players can battle through waves of enemies. The enemies that you'll come up against are, without exception, all robots. Through the 8-hour campaign you won't kill a single human. Luckily, however, there's no shortage of enemy types and bosses to keep the combat diverse and engaging. Some of the boss battles do take slightly too long to complete, with the massive robots soaking up thousands of rounds of ammo. You are able to destroy enemy limbs, and this will force them to alter what they're doing. For instance, if you destroy a robot's leg, it will either stand there on one leg and continue to fire, or it'll crawl along the ground Arnie style until you put it down. While that's entertaining, and it does make it feel a bit less like a shooting gallery, the best tactic I found was to get a headshot. If you can pull one of them off, then your victim will lose all tracking data and begin to fire at its one-time allies. This may sound like a gimmick, but if you can pull off 2 or 3 of these, it can really turn the tide. You'll be able to pick what 2 characters you wish to accompany you at the start of most missions. I found that the characters weren't really that different in combat, and it didn't make the choice of who you should take a tactical decision and more of a preference as to who you wanted to chat to in the quiet moments of each level. There is a trust system that has been implemented. It's basically a loyalty system that we often see in RPGs. Trust is gained by chatting to your team and how well you perform in combat, and you can lose trust if you accidentally shoot them or you give them orders that would see them killed. Once again, this doesn't appear to make a huge difference in the gameplay itself, but depending on the various trust ratings of your overall squad, you're able to watch a slightly different ending for the game. By and large, the friendly AI is competent enough and it will usually be able to heal you if you get wounded. They do, however, have a tendency to run out in front of you whilst you're firing, and this has a detrimental effect on their trust. It is a minor annoyance, but an annoyance nevertheless. You're able to upgrade your main weapon at certain shops. This is essential in making sure that you remain effective in combat. You can also find and buy upgrades for Dan himself. These aren't as essential, but it can really help out on the harder difficulty settings. Graphically, Binary Domain looks good. Sure, it won't win against AAA titles, but there was never a time that I felt that they were bad. Character animations could be better, but the overall look and feel of the game is still perfectly playable. If you're like me and you quite like reading between the lines, then you'll see that Binary Domain tackles both race and class issues. It is quite a heavy topic, but it's done in such a way that it doesn't preach or try to influence you as a person. I think Binary Domain missed out on the recognition it deserves. It is a great game, the mechanics are solid, and the enemies are diverse and competent. For a game that's a couple of years old, it still looks good, and your own AI aren't mindless bullet catchers. There are a few things that could have been done better, but these were minor complaints at best. If you haven't already played Binary Domain, then get yourself a copy, it's definitely worth it.